everyone, and welcome to our JAX REIA Member Highlight Series. I am Nasreen Ali, the president of the Jacksonville Real Estate Investors Association, and I have with me today as my guest Glen Friedman, and we are coming to you from River and Post, one of the best rooftop views of our beautiful city here in Jacksonville. Glen, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, Nasreen.
Nice having you.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so you are very involved with JAX REIA. You run a number of different meetups. You've been a member for a while, but I want to take a step back and understand, how did you come to invest in real estate? What was your beginnings for real estate?
Well, like a lot of people, I moved here from somewhere else.
Okay.
I came down from New York City about 5.5 years ago. And when I moved down, I had owned a franchise in New York for about 10 years. And prior to that, I traded stocks. So I was always entrepreneurial. And when I moved down to Jacksonville, I had an opportunity to say, yeah, I'd like to get involved in real estate. Though I had no real estate experience except owning my own apartment in New York City.
Wow.
So like a lot of people, I went to Google and typed in real estate Jacksonville, and JaxReia came up. So I went to one of the Tuesday night classes at the time. And this was a class about wholesaling, which obviously, having no real estate experience, I didn't know what wholesaling was.
Sure.
The speaker at the meeting was Gonzalo Corzo, and he was just so passionate about real estate and about JAX REIA that literally at the end of the meeting, I stood up and I said, I have to join this group.
Oh,
and I joined JAX REIA that night.
That's wonderful.
And because I didn't really have a job when I moved down here, I just said, okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time going to meetings. And I spent over the next several months a lot of hours going to a lot of JAX REIA meetings. And it's just a great organization. The idea that you could take somebody who has no experience and kind of throw them into the deep end of the pool and just go to the meeting, ask a lot of people, what do you do, and what do you like about real estate, and if you had to do it all over again, what would you do? And slowly but surely, I kind of found the path.
Right. Yes. It's something that's very common to people is you kind of skip or shorten the learning curve because you're now exposed to people that you can learn from.
Correct.
So what was your franchise? What was your niche or your business before?
So in New York, we had a franchise called Cartridge World. It was a remanufactured printer cartridges.
Okay.
It was a great, green, eco-friendly franchise, and for a while it did okay, and then it didn't do okay.
Okay, so really you are fairly new to the real estate world, 5 years, but you're doing really well. So tell us about some of the deals and some of the different areas of real estate that you invest in.
So the first part of real estate that I got involved with was Airbnbs, and it was just dumb luck. I literally went to a meeting one day. I walk in, there's a room full of people. I don't know anybody. And I see two guys shake this one guy's hand, and I say, oh, let me sit next to that guy. And I sit next to that guy, and we wind up talking. And I said, oh, what do you do? And he said, oh, I'm getting involved in Airbnbs and short-term rentals. Oh, what is that? So he started telling me about that, and we wound up having a couple lunches. And he was a realtor, so I said, I'd like to get involved. Why don't you buy me a house? So he found a house on the west side, and there was a house for $112,000.
Right.
Now, coming from New York City, the idea that you could buy any house for $112,000 was shocking.
Right.
It came with walls and a kitchen and bedrooms.
Sure.
And slowly but surely, he managed the property for me as an Airbnb.
Right.
And in the third month, we had somebody, a local family who was who needed to get out of their house for some mold issues, and the insurance company wound up paying the rent for them staying in our house. So the rent for the Airbnb that night was $100 a night. And they were supposed to stay a couple weeks, and they wound up staying 4 months. And
wow.
It was very profitable. And I said, you know what? This really works. We should do this again.
Wow.
And from there, I wound up buying more and more properties. I got up to 19 Airbnbs. And that was my first foray into real estate down here. It's been terrific.
Wow. How instrumental was JAX REIA in helping you acquire those properties?
Very instrumental. The idea that you could go to a meeting, kind of vet people, talk to them, and then have them recommend other people has really been a key to my success down here.
Right. Wow. And at what point did you decide you felt like you can trust the organization to support you? So you went to your first meeting. Sounds like you had a very successful first meeting. Was it right away, or did it take a while?
Well, for a lot of people coming from New York, I'm naturally skeptical of things.
Sure.
So you really have to kind of see who goes to the meetings over and over. There's a lot of turnover in a real estate investment group. For a lot of people who want to get involved in real estate, they go on YouTube, they think it's a get-rich-quick scheme. They think they're going to make a lot of money quickly. It's not like that. Real estate is a great path to building wealth slowly, but you really need to be in it. And because it's a contact sport, you need to meet people over and over and over. And then once you go to the meetings a lot of times and you see, okay, these are the same people, and you're talking to them, and you really do figure out pretty quickly, okay, who's real, who really owns property, who's been doing this for a while. And then those are the people that you could reach out to and say, okay, who would you recommend in this situation or that situation?
Right. Okay. So your first entrance to real estate was Airbnb, but I know now you do private lending. How did that evolve?
Correct. So another great story. I went to a meeting, okay, sat down, and as they're going around, everybody had a chance to stand up and say what they did.
Right.
So a couple people stood up and said, hey, I'm a private lender and I've got money. And when it got to me, I stood up and said, hey, I've got some money too. I literally said that, and at the end of the meeting, I had a young couple come up to me and they said, hey, we flipped a couple houses, we're looking to borrow some money. And I said, great, why don't you kind of explain to me the whole process? So they showed me the flips, they showed me the stuff they had done, and they wanted to borrow $100,000, which I did have. And I said, great, I'll loan you the $100,000. I have no idea what this means, but but I quickly learned talking to other people that you need a mortgage, you need a promissory note, you need to be in a first lien position.
Yes.
And then I said, look, I'll give you a good interest rate, which I think at the time was 8%, if you could just kind of let me follow you around and kind of watch the whole process of rehabbing a house. And that was great. That was my first time into doing it, and he took me to this house, which was a cat pee house. It was horrible.
All right.
It was a house he bought for $100,000. Not far from JU, and you walked in and you almost fell over from the smell. It was horrific. And it took him a number of months to do the rehab, but when he was done, it was gorgeous. And I just could not believe how wonderful he had done a job. And then I got paid $6,000 or $7,000 to help him and his wife make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And I was like, this is a great way to make money.
And learn.
And learn about the rehab process, which I'm not a great fan of. I have done some flips, but not well.
Right,
so.
right. Okay. What would you say is possibly a challenge that stands out in your mind that you might have faced that's real estate related, and if you would share with us how you overcame
One of
it?
the challenges of real estate is there's so many paths that it's very hard to find something that you enjoy, because everything sounds interesting. It really is a horrible shiny penny problem where you talk to the next person, they're like, oh, I'm involved in this. And you're like, wow, that sounds really good. Or I do notes. What's notes? And oh, I do multifamily. Oh, great, let's get involved in that. And it's really hard to kind of keep your focus. So early on, when people say, oh, I need to find a path, my answer is always, you don't really need to find a path. Just pick a path. If it turns out you don't like it, you can change. There's nothing here that's life-ending as far as if you decide to do rehabs or if you decide to do wholesaling. You can always change later on. Remember, it's a long-term game.
Right, yeah. So you're involved in JaxReia in a number of different ways, but one of the things that you do that's highly visible is you run a meetup group. Do you want to tell us about that meetup?
Sure. So when I came down to Florida, I looked for local meetups. I live in Fleming Island, and there was a woman who was running a meetup in Fleming Island. So I went to the meeting, and I think there were about 6 people. And it was just a small meeting at Whitey's Fish Camp. And about a year and a half later, she got sick, unfortunately. And she was running a couple different meetings in town, and I was invited to take over that meeting. So I said, okay, great. I'd like to take over the meeting. And I started bringing in speakers. And the meeting grew slowly. So we were getting 10 people, 20 people, stuff like that. And then word slowly got out there that this was a pretty good meeting to go to. And really the goal for me is kind of force people to interact with other people.
Right.
So I like to joke that the format of the meeting is I give a market update on what's going on in real estate. I'm a real estate broker locally. And so I do that, and then I bring a speaker in, something with real estate, some kind of interesting knowledge that they can share, and then I give everybody else the opportunity to say what they do, what they're looking for, and then I joke that really the meeting starts at the end of the meeting, because I want everybody to spend 10, 20, 30 minutes talking, meeting 1 or 2 people who, as we go around the room and we find out what everybody does, okay, I'm looking for that person.
Right.
And the goal here is to develop relationships and deepen the experiences that they have, because at the end of the day, I want to be in a room full of people who I do business with, who I like, know, and trust.
Right. And that definitely resonates with me. One of the things that I've heard said, and I've quoted many times, is you can be one conversation away from changing the rest of your life, which sounds like it happened to you a few times within JaxReia meetings and within the community of JaxReia. So, Yeah, well, there you have it, folks. Thank you so much, Glenn, for coming and sharing
Really
your
appreciate
time
it.
with us. Hope you have some level of inspiration to dive in and get there. 5 years ago, he came here without any real estate experience, and now he's killing it. All right, thank you. If you want to learn more, just go to JaxReia.com.